Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about how I broke up with my PMDD partner. Yes, I said it. I did it. I meant it in the moment, of course, because we all do when we're in PMDD, but I broke up. I said, I'm done. And it was at a moment where me and my PMDD partner were arguing, and he really just wanted to know, are we done? Is this over? Like, is the relationship over? Because he's a very matter-of-factly type of person. So we were going through a time, which if you listen to the last episode, you know exactly what we were going through, but he was just wanting that kind of certainty, like, are we done? And I was like, yes, we're done. We are absolutely done. And I had never said that before. And he was so shocked because I was literally willing to give up everything because I genuinely felt like we're done. Like, I am tired of doing a list of things. Like, I could open the scroll and tell you a list of things that I was doing with a good heart, with good intentions for our PMDD relationship, and it wasn't enough to please him. And so I was reaching a point where I felt like I was doing everything to please my PMDD partner. He wasn't receiving it. And I'm like, he's just never going to be happy with me. Like, maybe it's me. He just shouldn't be with me. Like, I'm not second guessing any of the tools that I'm using as far as PMDD partners, but maybe we're just not the right couple. Maybe we're just not the right two people. And I know that you've gone through this so many times where you have been in conflict and arguing and fighting with your PMDD partner, where you're second guessing, is this the right person for you? And you're feeling like, maybe even if I believe in these tools that Rose is telling me, maybe if I use them with someone else, it'll be better. But I'm going to tell you exactly what it looks like because I broke up with my PMDD partner. So last we talked, he left the home. He packed up everything, all of his things. So to give you a little backstory, if you didn't listen to the past episode, my husband, my PMDD partner, is in the Marine Corps. He's been in there for 22 years. And we live separate because we are in separate jobs. And so we're in the same state, but we live about, a flight is like an hour and a half, not even an hour and a half, like an hour flight away, San Diego to San Jose. But if you drive, it's like 7 hours, but who's going to do that? So we live apart. We have done so in multiple countries, multiple states, meaning when we first got together, we met in Hawaii. Then he went on deployment to Dubai for a year. Then I went with him to live in Dubai for a little bit, came back. Then I came back to Hawaii where I was living. Then I went to Houston, Texas, loved it so much. Then I went to Maryland, the DC area. Then I went here to California. So throughout the course of our relationship, we've lived in about, I would say, about at least 6 different states because we had this goal of what we wanted our career to look like. And I'm going to get into that. When we met, we were both very career oriented, invested in our careers, had done enough time, and we were nearing retirement, meaning we just needed 20 years in order to retire. And he was kind of like at 17. I was kind of like at 15. 14. I was like at 14 years, well, 13, 14 years. And so I knew I was going to have the longest time. And he always said when we first met, and I want you to, keep track of this because we're going to go down the trajectory of our relationship. So when we first met, I had been single for 2 years after a breakup where my previous PMDD partner, my fiance, cheated on me. Like, not only cheated on me, but like with a coworker. And I didn't find out until after the fact. Like, it was horrible. I'll do a whole episode on that. But basically, when he knew that I was going to find out, he told me that he cheated on me because I guess the girl was going to tell me, and she was a lovely girl, but she was very much like me. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but if your partner has ever cheated, sometimes they cheat on people that look exactly like you, act like you. Like when I found out who it was that my ex cheated with, I'm like, that is me, because he cheated with a single mom. Like I was a single mom. And he cheated with another single mom with a daughter the same age and proceeded to do the same things that we would do with our daughter together with the other woman. And I was like, wow, like I couldn't believe that. But yeah, so I had gone after that happened because I was so invested with the kids. They were teenage kids. So you already know what that looked like. Like I was used to dating people with little kids where you give them a cookie and they're good. You play with them a little bit and they love you. Teenagers, you have to go through blood, sweat, and tears to get their approval. And it's normally initially they don't like you because you're impacting their parents and they want all of their attention. With my ex, I remember the first date we went on, no, the second date, like formal date. He's like, oh, I want you to meet my daughters. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I came, I was living in Hawaii. I was very boho chic, like tank tops and some shorts. Dressing up for me was like a flowy dress with like nothing underneath. Like I loved my fashion style there. It's very minimalistic. It's just like free as a bird. I didn't know what was going on in the States as far as, like what was in like the trend of clothes, because when you live on an island, you just kind of adapt to that. And so the first time I went out to dinner with my ex's, daughters, it was 2 of them. One was 15 and one was 13. The 15-year-old had on a bodycon Kim Kardashian dress on, like full on hugging all the curves with like 5-inch heels. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, I thought I was the one on the date, but okay. And at that time, my daughter was like, what was she like? I think she was like 5 or 6 years old. Like, so she had on her little aloha dress on, but I know what it feels like to have to impress a teenager in order to make them feel comfortable. And so I had done the work. What I'm telling you I'm telling you to tell you, I had done the work with my ex. So I knew what it took in order to do the work, to put in the sweat equity, to prove yourself in a relationship with someone that has children. And so when my PMDD partner met me, I had our daughter, Veronica, and my daughter, which is now our daughter, but I believe she was 8 years old. Like she was still in that stage where she could be converted. And by converted, I mean, whatever parenting style I had raised her on, she was still in that place of, if I decided, hey, we're going to do something different, she was still in that place of doing something different versus her being like, that's not what we do here, which is where she's at right now. Like as a 13-year-old, she's kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't do this. Like teenagers will proclaim to you, we don't do this. We're not doing this. I'm not doing this. Like all these things. And you kind of just have to go with it because there's so many hormones and conviction that goes along with it that as a child, as a young child, you don't really get. You kind of like can give them a cookie and make them okay with it. So when my PMDD partner and I met, we had different cultures. So religiously, and none of that bothered me because when I always look at the totality of a person. And I'm like, okay, can I deal with this on the totality? Like, what are our values? So the first thing that I noticed is we both believed in God. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I don't want you doing some shady stuff where I have to like, pray for your soul because you're about to like go rob a bank or do something like that. But we both believed in God, but he was raised in a Muslim culture. His family is from the Middle East. They're from Syria. I'm from America. My family's from America and Panama, the Caribbean. So, that's a whole other, like all of my culture is the opposite of his culture. And so when we talked about that, I was like, do you think that's going to be a problem? And he's like, no, we both believe in God. Like, as long as we both believe in God, like that's all that matters. And I was like, okay, cool. Cause that's how I felt. Like, I'm not a stickler for what that looks like for you. I'm all about everybody doing their journey of their relationship with their spirituality. And so I was like, okay, that's not an issue. Financial wise, we both were on the place where we managed our finances very well. We had paid off debt he was divorced before, I was divorced before. So we both were very mindful of like what that could look like if you're not managing your finances. So basically, physicality, we were both in that mindset of take care of our physical body. It matters. Like how we look is how we feel. Like we put in effort every single day to feel our best, and our, outward appearance is just a byproduct of that. So not super vain on like, you have to have a six pack or whatever, but just doing something to keep ourselves healthy. So we connected on all of these similar values. He believed in family. He was saying that the one thing that he didn't have in his whole career successfully with the Marine Corps was a family. I think he was like, I went on a lot of deployments. I provided a lot. So he has a daughter from a previous marriage that he had provided for. She's now 22. And so he's gone past that point. And so he was kind of like, I didn't get a chance to fully raise her because I was always gone on deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and all these things. And he was like, I really just always wanted a family. And I feel like hindsight looking back, I should have taken that more into context because I was like, oh yeah, like in the military, you all want a family, like it's a thing, but you move around so much, like there's so many things to where it doesn't happen, but that's part of the job. It's not like a civilian job where you just go and you stay someplace for 40 days and 40 nights, AKA 20, 30, 40 years. So it's part of the job. And so when he met me, he was like, I just want a family. I've been able to create everything I want in the Marine Corps, and now I want a family. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I had healed from what happened with my ex. I was in a place to start another relationship. His values aligned. I was like, okay, I'm cool. Let's do this. And he was in that mindset like I am, whereas I go all in on something, I go all in. I'm either all the way out or all the way in. So basically, we met on July 20th. No, we met, 17th, July 22nd. July 22nd. And then we were married by August 22nd. So we literally had married a month after meeting because of what we knew that we wanted. Because what happened was he took a break from relationships after his marriage, and I had simultaneously took a break. So when we met each other, we had just come off of like a 2-year break. So we were completely healed. We weren't really open to dating other people. And then when we dated, he was on leave on vacation time. So we literally spent like every day together. Like we met and then we said, oh, we're going to hang out, like a day. And then we were inseparable for the next, like all the other days up until our marriage. Like we just were getting to know each other. We were doing, and I was still working at the time. So I was like, as soon as I got off work, I was spending time with him. We're texting all day while I was at work. He was on vacation because he was about to go live in Dubai. And one of the first things that he said to me was, I know that I just met you and it's super crazy because I've been waiting to meet someone like you, but I'm going on deployment. He was going to deployment 45 days from when we met. And I was like, okay, well, the only way, like I had said in passing, the only way I would be faithful and stay committed to someone if they were going to be gone for a year, because that's what he was stating. I'm going to go on this deployment. I can't come back. I'm going to be gone for a year. I was like, the only way I would do that is if I was married. And I really meant that because I was such a free spirit. I had backpacked through Europe. I had found what made me happy. I was in love with traveling, solo traveling. And by solo traveling, I mean solo traveling with, my daughter, because I could just like bring her anywhere with me and just experience life with her. She's a very good vibes, easy breezy kind of child where I never felt any type of, like, oh, I gotta travel and bring my daughter. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's because, I think it's because I've been traveling with her because of my job. I've been traveling with her since she was like 2 months old. We've been traveling. So now it's like when we travel, she just knows what to do. Like it's just enjoyable. So I had said like in passing with him, like I would never be, committed to someone unless I was already married, if I wasn't going to like be with them for a whole year. And he kind of like took it. And then we continued to spend time together because I was all about, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Like I was very much in the spiritual realm of, we only have now. I wasn't trying to predict the future or worry about the future. And so the last week before he was about to go on the deployment, he took me on he was like, I want to take you on one of my favorite hikes. And I was like, okay. And we had a big argument the night before, and that's another episode, but that I've already recorded. But we had a big argument the night before, but then we woke up the next morning and I texted him, I'm like, are we going on the hike? Because that's how Hawaii is. When you live in Hawaii, like you can go hiking every day. Like it's a thing, it's a lifestyle. Being outdoors, hiking. So I was just waking up in the morning, like, regardless if I was at the time, which I was in PMDD rage, which without me really knowing what that was, but I was definitely in PMDD rage. But I woke up the next morning, like, okay, are we doing this or not? And he was like, yeah, let's go. Like, I'll come pick you up. I'll be down. Because I was living in this high-rise condo in the middle of Waikiki, Hawaii, like in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I was living on this high-rise condo, me and my daughter and our dog, Leo. And I was living my best life, our best life, where every morning I would walk down and see the sunrise in Waikiki, which Hawaii sunrises are magical. And then I would go do my morning routine, which would consist of a walk or a run. There was a gym there. Sometimes I would go to the gym. I think went to the gym like 4 times a week, but then other times I just like wandered around, and it was just like my safe haven. So that was like in the morning, I would go to see the sunrise because it was so beautiful. And in the evenings, me and our daughter would go to see the sunset with our dog, Leo. And it was just the most amazing life. And so that was the life that I was living when I met my PMDD partner. And I literally said to myself when I was single, I said, I just want to meet someone that can give me something that I can't give myself, because I had reached a level of so much happiness with myself and my life. But I wanted someone else, but I just wanted them to add to what I already had. And in a way where they were giving me something that I didn't already have, because I had peace of mind. I had financial freedom. With my ex, there was so much debt that I had to pay off. I mean, over $40,000 worth of debt with my ex because he did fraud and so many things with my account, took my checkbook and whatever stuff. So I had finally gotten to the point where I cleared my name, paid up all the debt. And I was like, okay, so I don't need, to be with someone monetarily. I was making really good money. I loved my career, but I wanted someone, but only if it was going to add to, only if it was going to add to. Like that was my stipulation. If you're going to offer me something I can do for myself, I'm good. Because now I have the responsibility of another person and I'm going to be not getting anything extra out of it. Like I'm not I wasn't in a place to not be given something in exchange because I had been in that position so many times in my previous relationships and it didn't feel good for me to be giving, and the person's receiving and I wasn't getting anything in return. I mean, that happened to me. That was like the pattern I was in where I would add so much value for my relationships. And then they would take whatever I gave them as value. Like, for example, I would have certain things that I would do within a relationship, habit-based things that were successful for business, for finances, for career, for parenting, and for retirement. And they would take my dreams, my work, my intellectual property, and like, oh, wow, that makes sense. I want to do that too. And so when we would break up, they would end up taking that and like running with it. And now their whole life changed because they had access to a whole new mindset of things that would work amazingly for them. And they ended up being debt free and like creating hundreds of thousands of dollars, like all of this from my intellectual property. But we didn't end up being together. So I was like, that doesn't feel good to me to keep pouring into these people, giving them all of this advice that I learned from, blood, sweat, and tears. Like I learned from a lot of it, I learned from failure and what works, what doesn't work. And I was giving it away to the people that I was in the relationship in thinking that we were going to be in a relationship together. But when we broke up, I was like, wow, I felt like I was robbed. I was like, they just took all of that from me. And so I was wanting to be in a relationship where when I met my PMDD partner, I was like, the only way I'm going to be in a relationship with someone is if they can give me something that I already don't have, if they can add value to me. And I remember what added value for me when I met my PMDD partner was we were so aligned. And I had been in that place of two or better than one. So he was like my twin. So was he offering something that I didn't already have? No. But what he was offering was a mirror. Like he was validating everything that I stood for. Whereas my happiness, my religion, the way I wanted to live my life, the way I wanted to travel, the way I wanted to be debt free, the way I wanted to serve my PMDD community, like he's been on, my podcast. Like he was doing everything that I was doing, but he was like 1Xing it. And so I was like, oh, this is the person I'm supposed to be with because they're in alignment with where I'm going. And so when we got married, that was my premise. Like, we're going to live this life. We're going to build this empire. We're going to do these things. And life literally, first, second, third year, was amazing, like little hiccups and bumps. Fourth and fifth year, sixth year, like that's when it got into, this is not comfortable. This is not where I want to be, because the agreement was that he was going to stay in the Marine Corps for 2 more years. And I was good with that. I'm like, 2 years will fly by. I had done that before myself. Like, it's fine. And then now here we are 5 years later, and he had an opportunity to get out of the Marine Corps, but because he got offered a deployment to Bahrain, and I can say that now because he didn't go on it, he didn't get qualified to go on that deployment. And then all of a sudden, he ended up re-enlisting to stay in for another 3 years without going on that deployment. And we were still going to live apart. And since that time of that decision, there's been so much bitterness and resentment because when we had the conversation about whether he was going to re-enlist for another 3 years, it was because he had come to me and said, I'm so excited about this deployment. I want to go to Bahrain. I want to spend this time. I want to go overseas. And he's at his best when he's overseas serving and working full time. That's when he's at his best. And when they didn't allow him to, so he re-enlisted. And then when they didn't allow him to go, he ended up going to just another unit, just another job in an office. And that is the complete opposite of what he does and what he values. And he went into a deep level of depression. And that's when it all started, was that deep depression of, I'm not where I want to be in my career. I don't value what I'm doing. Like I love serving my country, but specifically the job that he was doing was not what he wanted to sign up for. And so it was kind of like a slap in the face, because he had sacrificed being home with his family to go on this deployment, but then they said, you can't go on this deployment. And then he was in this other space of just doing, strategic office work, which is what I do. I do human resources, very behind a desk, 8 hours a day, very like cookie cutter. And so that's when the depression started, and the downward spiral of his personality and the way that we were connecting started to suffer, because he was like the morning routine that I talk about so often, he was no longer doing his morning routine. He would we both used to be the type of people, like I get up at 5 to do my morning routine, 5 a.m. I remember one of the things that impressed me was he was getting up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to do his morning routine. That's because he went to sleep at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So like, if you think about the amount of sleep, that makes sense. But I admired his work ethic of getting up early, getting the hard things done in the day first, all these things. And as the months and the years have gone by, he's not in that mindset anymore. And so when I say I broke up with my PMDD partner, it was I broke up with that version of who he is, because he's not that person anymore. And there was so long that I was forcing him to go back into that routine. Like, when I met you, you got up and you did this morning routine and you did this. And now he's in this phase of, he doesn't want to do the things that he used to do before when we first met. And now I have to rediscover what he does want to do instead of trying to force him into his old routine, which is very scary for me, because I know that the basis of his old routine was there to keep him mentally and physically healthy. And now he's gotten into this concept of just being very lackadaisical on those things, like just not putting that much effort into the physicality of his health, or not, like his mental health has been suffering immensely. We just had the cancer scare, and that in itself can cause your mental to go down. And so I was finding myself in this position of, I moved twice within the last 3 years to these big homes, these big giant homes of 3-4 bedroom house, because he loves open space. He loves the home. But like, he grew up in a family where everybody sat at the table and ate dinner and talked about their day. And I grew up in a family that did not do that. But I raised our daughter into a very individualistic kind of mindset, where we kind of ate our food, but I allowed her to cook. Like I was always preparing her to be a young adult from a young age. I was going off of her creativity. Like I'm an Enneagram 7, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm a free spirit. So I want to see what you're capable of. So much of me was suppressed as a child because my parents wouldn't allow me to explore different talents that I knew that I had. And so I was like, I'm never going to allow that for my daughter, because I feel like she could be good at so many things, and she's an amazing cook. She's been cooking since the age of 8. And I don't mean cooking like I'm over there flipping it for her, like full on with supervision. You're like, here are the eggs, here's the hot dogs, here is the beef, here are the mushrooms, the zucchini, like sauteing everything. Like, here's the onions, the peppers, all of the things that you want. Like, I let her go free reign on the outskirts of the grocery store. And she's allowed to get whatever fruit and vegetable she wants. And she can experiment with recipes, which she's done over the years. Like, for a couple of years, she was on like a cucumber kick where she was like cucumbers with a splash of lemon. And she was like in that mode. Now, present day, as 13, she's in sauteed mushrooms with garlic and onions, with zucchini with it, with rice, and then she'll put like a egg over it, like a couple of eggs over it. Like, she'll fry it looks like a culinary dream. And it is because I allow her to explore her culinary skills and all of that. Like, I value that, because I have a thing about because when I was 17, I graduated high school because I went to school a year early, because I was in private school. So they allowed me to start school before, public school, if you're not a certain age by May or June, then you have to wait for the next year. Whereas private school allows you to join like whatever age you're in the year, as long as you're within the year group. So I graduated when I was 17. And then after that, my adopted parents were just like, you're on your own. And I remember I didn't know so many things. And I'm like, man, I wonder why they didn't teach me, why they didn't tell me. And so I've been committed with my daughter. Like, I'm not going to like shock her system when she turns 17, 18. And it's like, okay, I'm doing everything for you. And then now you're on your own. Like, I will never do that. And so, but my PMDD partner grew up in a household where kids were seen, not heard. So, thinking about how we were raised and what he believed in, I was raised a certain way, but I decided to not raise my child that way. Whereas he was raised a certain way, but he was still in that conditioning mode of like, whether I like it or not, this is how you're supposed to be raised. So when we got together, he had all these stipulations of what my parenting with, my daughter was supposed to be like. And I was like, some things I was like, yeah, that's valuable. And then some things I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I genuinely feel like if he had come home and been retired and living in the home, if he wanted to create different scenarios, that would have been the time to do it. Because 9 years old is still that time where you can like show that, you're still giving them the rules, you have their best interests, hormones weren't there. Now my daughter has her cycle, she has hormones. So like, we have to be cognizant of all that. So when I say that I broke up with my PMDD partner, I broke up with the version of him that felt like, I know what I want. This is him talking. I know what I want. I know what she is. So when he met me, I was like a nomadic person. I had the majority of my house, my stuff in storage. And I was living out of this condo, out of like, I would say the equivalent of like me and my daughter had 2 suitcases worth of clothes each. And we were living our best lives. But I think that he saw the heart of us. He saw the value in us. And he was like, oh, they just need for me to give them a platform. Like, they just need for me to like get them a house, or they just need to go to a house, and then I'll be able to have the family that I want. Well, what happened was I've always, when we talk about household things, like I'm really big on HGTV. Like, I love watching it. And I've always loved like condos, high rises. When it talks about big homes, that's never appealed to me, but it's always appealed to my partner because he wants big, wide open spaces. So my last 2 places that I've lived, I've created these big, wide open spaces, not for me, only for him, but then he would only be there like a portion of the time to visit. But I thought like, oh, okay, if I'm married to him, I have to have this house for him to come to every time he comes home because this is what makes him feel good. So the last time that he came home, I have this big house, 4-bedroom house, 2 living rooms, one of which we don't even like sit down in, like where there's a formal living room and then there's like a couch with like another living room, a full-on dining room, 3 bedrooms, like my office, like all these things. And when he was there, he was just saying he wasn't feeling connected. He was so unhappy. He was struggling mentally. And I was like, so when I said I broke up with him, I'm like, if I give you the big house and you're still unhappy, then why am I killing myself? And that's what I want to have you understand. As PMDD partners, don't kill yourself and what I mean by kill yourself is don't wear yourself out. If the things that you're doing are not serving your PMDD partner, stop doing them. Because I want you to redirect your energy towards something that is actually going to serve you, serve your PMDD partner, not what they think that it's supposed to be. And so the basis of this is, a big part of having a successful relationship with PMDD is maintaining reasonable expectations. When your expectations are unreasonable, they're going to go unmet. And so my PMDD partner assumed that I was going to create a home that had like mommy and daddy. When mommy and daddy come in the house, they're greeted by the child, but he wasn't here. So the unrealistic expectation was that even in his absence, he could create the same narrative and just come and go as he pleased. And so I was breaking up with the unreasonable expectations of our relationship. And I had a clear conversation. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I took time to do it. I remember when we first met, I was very positive and I was like borderline toxic positivity, where if something bad happened, I'm like, that's okay. We can get through this, like super motivational, because that's who I am at the core of me. It's not something that I try hard to do. It's just who I am. But I remember when we met, he was like, oh, like you need to acknowledge the negative. And so my partner was telling me, because he would just call me venting and complaining about stuff. And I was just like, it didn't sit well with me because everything that he was complaining about, I would give him a positive about. Oh, well, you can look at it this way. And he's like, no, like sometimes I just need to vent and you should try it too. I tried it and it worked horribly. I will 10 out of 10 do not recommend. I allowed myself to have this open space with my PMDD partner where I told him every negative thing that was going on with me. And all it did was make me feel worse when I was communicating it, and it made me feel worse afterwards. I felt completely like the victim. The more I talked about how horrible my life was, the more horrible my life felt. And where he was saying, no, it's just this big release because you finally get to get it out and then you can move forward. For me, I didn't have that experience. Talking negative about everything that happened in PMDD made me feel worse in PMDD. I got no value off of intrinsically explaining every horrible detail that was going on with my mind and my body and my soul. I was being self-aware of it. Like you see, I blog my Instagram every single day. So I was saying, this is how I'm feeling on that day, but I was not spending my day dwelling on those feelings. And so when you think about unrealistic expectations, when you're thinking about breaking up, a lot of times when you want to break up is because you have those unrealistic expectations. And the first one is my PMDD partner should be able to read my mind. So we are all guilty of this, where you're thinking, my PMDD partner knows I'm in PMDD. Why are they not doing the things that I need? Why are they not understanding that I can't give, what it is that I would normally give in my good days? So you get to a point where you genuinely believe that if your PMDD partner cared and was a good fit for you, was compatible, they would be able to figure out what you need, how you need it, and what that looks like. And this is not true. This is not true, but this is one of the myths that you have when you have those false expectations. So the way that you can combat that is to help yourself by letting your PMDD partner know what you need from them. And at the same time, ask your PMDD partner what, they can do for you that you need. Tell them, hey, this is what I need right now. What do you need? And then go forth and be happy towards meeting each other's needs. So when you have that unrealistic expectation that your partner's just supposed to know because you're so aligned, you're so connected, it's crap. It's not true. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen organically like that. Even if you have a moment where you meet a person and you're aligned in that way, that may just be the moment. But if you think that your whole relationship is going to be like that, that's not true. So the next PMDD trauma transformational tool for this lesson is zero fighting. No PMDD relationship is 100% smooth sailing. You're never going to fight. You are two different people with two different set of beliefs and a way of viewing the world. And I think that needs to be recognized. Your needs and interests do not have to match 100% of the time in order for you to be the right people for each other. Your likes and dislikes don't have to be the same. And there will be disagreements in your PMDD relationship because you're not seeing eye to eye, and that's okay. As long as you're openly communicating it in a way that's respectful, meaning you're having those respectful conversations. And that's the benefit of being in my private PMDD partners private sessions, where every single week you're having a conversation with your PMDD partner. And during that time, you're able to allow whatever needs to come out in a safe way, to where it gets to the point where it's about to start being an argument. I can kind of come in and mediate and say, no, this is not what this person means. This is what they mean. But it needs to be a weekly thing. And the reason why I say a weekly thing is because so many things happen in the course of a day that you can just imagine what would happen in a week. And so if you've not applied, if you've not joined, the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy or gotten my private sessions, you need to do that. I only take a limited amount, specifically 6 PMDD partner couples a month. At this time, I have 2 openings. I don't take more than that because of the time constraint of what it costs, like energetically. So if you know that you need personalized help with your PMDD relationship, go to my website and book a monthly session, and just go forward in doing something different. Because if you know that what you've been doing is not working, the best thing you can do is do something different. I'm never going to tell you to do the same thing. So go join the academy. I have a lot of private clients that are joining the academy and then also having the private sessions for added value. So go join, get plugged in, get connected so that you're not going through this by yourself. And so the next PMDD trauma transformational tool that I want you to understand about this is the right PMDD partner will make my life perfect. Get out of the mindset that your PMDD partner is there to make your life perfect. There are benefits to having a partner, but there are also disadvantages too. In order to be in a relationship with a PMDD partner, you have to accept that some parts of your life are likely to improve while others can go down a notch. There's some things that you're going to be able to do that you enjoy because you have a partner doing it. And there's some things that you may not be able to do sometimes because, her PMDD can't handle it. But no one's life is perfect. And your partner can either enhance your life experience, but it's not going to provide protection from reality. So if your partner is enhancing your life experience, that's a personal choice. You're choosing to look at what they're able to provide and say, this adds value for me. And maybe have that conversation. I know I had to. When I was downsizing, I'm like, listen, these things are important to me, but I'm willing to let it go for our future. And that was hard for me. I have a sauna. that I presently put on sale today, an actual sauna, a 2-person sauna in my garage. And I'm moving into an apartment where that's not going to be acceptable. And I have to sell something that I saved up to buy. And it's so hard for me because I'm thinking, if I wouldn't have had this big argument with my PMDD partner and had to move, I would have never had to sell my sauna. So I have to get myself out of that mindset that my PMDD partner is supposed to be perfect in the way that they respond to emotions. The reason why my PMDD partner didn't respond the way that was most helpful was because he was in his emotions. So I need you to get out of that mindset of thinking that your PMDD partner is going to be perfect. And the next PMDD trauma transformational tool is my PMDD partner will always be available when I need them. So everyone has things to do besides what your needs are as a partner. Your partner has things to take care of, their mental health, things that they have going on. And when they're not available to you, that doesn't mean that they're not there for you. They're not committed to the relationship. But I know so many times when we get to a point where we're thinking, oh my goodness, this needs to look like this in order to support me, that you get frustrated. So the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy is going to go in depth with the specific tools for this. I just gave you an overlay of what that looks like. If you have not joined, join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. Get plugged in with the trainings that I'm giving every single week, Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, whatever your time zone is. It's 8 a.m. my time, and it's a lot of different times your time. So just look up Pacific Standard Time USA, 8 a.m. That's when I'm going to be going in the PMDD Partners Breakup Academy. You do have to be joined at least one day prior. So that would be tomorrow. If you've not joined, make sure you join, because otherwise it messes up your membership and it messes up the discount. So remember, with everything that you have going on with PMDD, you're not supposed to do this alone, but take advantage of the tools that I'm giving you. Don't sleep on this. Don't overlook this. Don't think, oh, I will never need that, because sometimes you don't know what you need until you find yourself in that situation. So make sure you're taking advantage of the tools that I'm providing with you. And until the next episode, we got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is, if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things, so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship, so you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.